Hey, Dennis Tubergen here with the second video blog update of the week. You know, I read a lot of newsletters every month and I read a lot of online news, and I was reading an article on CNBC, which incidentally I don't often read, but the article featured an interview with Dr. Mark Faber. Now, some of you who are regular listeners to the Everything Financial radio program, in fact, today I'm coming to you from the studios of the Everything Financial radio program, recognize Dr. Faber's name as a past guest. He's been on the program several times over the past several years. Dr. Faber publishes something called the Gloom, Boom, and Doom Report, and he is known as being a bit bearish in his perspective of late. Well, a lot of you are probably saying, how can you be bearish? The S&P 500 has been on a tear. We've got stocks at all-time highs. The Dows and the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, I should say, and the S&P 500 are at all-time highs. How can you be bearish? Well, Dr. Faber, I think, puts it very, very succinctly, and I'm going to quote, "I'm concerned that in their quest to boost asset prices, central banks around the world have created another credit-induced gigantic asset bubble, which will in the future either badly deflate, causing capital losses for investors, or disinflate, producing poorer future returns." Now, what does that mean? Take away the academic terms, what does that mean? Dr. Faber is simply stating that central banks around the world have printed money. Common sense tells you that if you print money, it will have to go somewhere. Newly printed money will have to find a home somewhere. And it's found a home, Dr. Faber believes, in equity markets. I would agree. I, on the Everything Financial radio program, have stated in the past, and referenced in the past, I should say, an interview done with former Dallas Federal Reserve Bank President Richard Fisher. And Mr. Fisher said during an interview that the Fed put $1 trillion into the stock market to create a wealth effect. So yes, central banks are pumping up stock markets around the world, and when stock markets are pumped up with newly created money rather than rising based on solid fundamentals, you're creating a bubble. And the longer you pump up markets, the greater the bubble eventually is, and the bigger the devastation when the bubble eventually pops. That's what I believe we're in for. That's what Dr. Faber is concerned about in this article. And Dr. Faber incidentally stated that if you want to protect yourself, you might consider gold and gold-based stocks, mining stocks essentially. I certainly think that that's the case. I have recommended gold since gold hit 1080, which is about what the production cost is for an ounce of gold. Gold is now well up into over 1350. So we've seen a great move since that time. I think there's probably more upside there. Be careful. Make sure you talk to somebody who is familiar with your situation and familiar with what you want to accomplish. But certainly that's something that I would have you consider as you move ahead.